Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a champion of women's rights.
But rather to be spiritual beings who are connecting with God Almighty.
Suggesting that, morality comes from God Himself.
The very nature of man is that man was created weak.
Love God with all your heart and mind.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to another episode of Face2Face 2018. One of the best ways to end the weekend on a Sunday evening. This is the 7th episode of Face2Face, and this is the second semi-final round. Inshallah, on today's show we will see a further 5 participants and Khuddam from around the world struggle and toil for their place in the final. Inshallah, on today's program we will ask our semi-finalist Khuddam the following question. A colleague at work who happens to be irreligious asks you, you say that Islam is the only way forward, but why is it that Muslim countries appear to be the most backward in the world? How would you tackle this? By the grace and blessings of Allah, we have been on a fantastic journey where we've seen 25 Khuddam, as I said, compete in giving the best possible answers that we have to provide on our part, and the various scenarios that we've given alongside those questions. Of those 25 Khuddam, at the very start of the program, we distributed them into 5 separate groups. Of those 5 groups, in each group there were 5 contestants. Of those 5 contestants in each category, 2 went through to the semi-final rounds. The semi-final rounds is what we are experiencing right now, and this is the second stage of the semi-final round. Inshallah, in today's show, as mentioned, 2 will go through, and in the previous semi-final, 2 went through to the finals. Inshallah, from today, 2 will go through to the final, and from the final, of the 4 contestants that will go through, inshallah, we will have one winner of Face2Face 2018, and that winner will be given the chance to host a show on MTA International. With that, it is my great pleasure once again to welcome our expert panel of judges. We have with us Ayaz Mahmood Khan Sahib, who is a missionary and part of the central publications of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat. We have Khalil Ali Yusuf Sahib, who is a lawyer and deputy director of the International Press Office of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat. And we have Sayyid Amir Safir Sahib, who is the chief editor of the Review of Religions. Gentlemen, assalamu alaikum and jazakumullah for being with us here once again. This is the 7th week, and it's shortly now coming to a close. We've seen 7 weeks of strenuous effort by our Khuddam in answering, giving the best possible answers, and obviously in light of what you have to say as well. This is the 7th program, the 8th episode, the 8th show of Face2Face 2018, which is next week, will inshallah be the final. But before we go into that, we have to see who is going through to the final rounds from today. 2 can be selected from today's show. You can vote. As of now, you could have voted 24 hours before this very time. You can go to mta.tv/face2face. That's mta.tv/face2face, and you can select your 2 favorite contestants who you feel should go through to the finals and join our already qualified 2 finalists from last week's show. If you wish to participate in future shows as well, we've been receiving many requests, so we should get this word out there that if you wish to participate on another show of Face2Face, you can simply email us at face2face@mta.tv. You can state that you wish to take part, cite your name, your qiyadat, your country, and obviously that you wish to take part, and inshallah you will be considered and you will be contacted prior to the commencement of the next series. Once again, the subject that we are talking about on today's show, if I just read that question out again, is a colleague at work who happens to be irreligious asks you, you say that Islam is the only way forward, but why is it that Muslim countries appear to be the most backward in the world? How do you tackle this? Before we move on to our first contestant, I should remind the contestants as well, the viewers at home, that there will be a 60-second round which will happen immediately after the video of our entries are played. So as soon as we listen to one of the entries, one of the judges will ask a question to the contestants, and they will have literally 60 seconds to answer that question, and that will have an effect on the final result of that contestant. Now let's turn to our first contestant. We have Umar Amir Sahib from Canada on the line. Umar Amir Sahib, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Umar Sahib?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well.
I believe we do have a video connection, but in the meantime, let's just talk to the camera. Umar Amir Sahib, you had the chance, as well as Zaki Ahmed Sahib from last week, you had the chance to speak to our winner of 2017's Face2Face. What sort of tips did he share with you, and how will you be improving your performance from here onwards?
One of the things that he shared with me regarding at least the semi-final round was that I should be calm, I should be doing Durood Sharif and stuff like that to help sort of calm my nerves for the 60-second question that will be coming.
Excellent. And the 60-second round, are you nervous about that? How are you feeling? Do you feel that are you ready for it?
Yeah, as time is moving forward, I can feel my heart rate going up, but inshallah, I think it'll be okay.
Inshallah. No, our judges aren't too harsh. They're very friendly. I personally know them. They'll be very lenient in that respect. But let's now take a look at what Umar Amir Sahib had to say in answer to today's question.
Firstly, my friend, I think that we are doing a disservice when using the word backwards when referring to these Muslim countries, mainly because the metric for assessing this is very subjective. We cannot use our societal standards here in the West to judge those of other countries, as that would be a very unfair approach. What would be a fair approach, though, is to judge these so-called Muslim countries based off Islamic teachings themselves. And when we do that, we come to realize that there really isn't anything Islamic about these countries after all. So it wouldn't be right to use them as the model for the religion of Islam. Unfortunately, there are many cultural and societal deficiencies that are prevalent among these nations. There is a failure to uphold basic human rights of minorities. There is state-sanctioned violence against innocent civilians. The infamous example of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was brutally murdered in the Saudi Arabian consulate, is a testament to that. Materialistic gain has corrupted the minds of those in power in these nations. And the thing to realize, my friend, is that these situations have come about due to a lack of adherence to true Islamic teachings. These countries are stuck in a perpetual limbo and are not moving forward because they have in fact foregone the beautiful teachings of Islam. And this condition really isn't surprising at all, because it was in fact prophesied by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when he said that there will come a time when nothing will remain of Islam except for its name, and nothing will remain of the Quran except for its inscriptions. And you see, my friend, we need not look any further than the state of the Muslim world today to see the fulfillment of this prophecy. And the beautiful thing is that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ also prophesied the light that will guide the Muslim world out of this period of darkness. The reformer of this age, the promised Messiah ﷺ, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. So until these nations accept the promised Messiah ﷺ and begin to adhere to the true Islamic teachings, they will regress even further, because God Almighty says in the Holy Quran that Allah changes not the condition of a people until they change that which is in their hearts. So my friend, I would take the portrayal of these so-called Muslim countries with a grain of salt and realize that they are only Muslim by name and not by their actions. And if you seek a living example of the true teachings of Islam, you need not look any further than the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. A global nation not confined by any physical boundaries, who is serving to herald the true teachings of Islam day in and day out. So it is through this example of this divine community that you will see why Islam is indeed the way forward. Jazakallah.
Gentlemen, Umar Amir Sahib was talking about the general condition of the world, of the Muslim state, of the Muslim countries as well. Ayaz Sahib, I see you getting ready to ask a question, so I'm going to let you take it away now. Umar Amir Sahib, inshallah, Ayaz Sahib will be asking you a question. I believe we'll get the video just shortly, but Ayaz Sahib, you can take it away in the meanwhile.
Assalamu alaikum, Umar Sahib.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Umar Sahib, Jazakallah for your response. I think you covered some very important points. Towards the end of your response, you spoke about the fact that the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is a wonderful example of Muslims who follow the true teachings of Islam. And if you want to see Islam in the practical sense being followed as it ought to be, then you need not look any further. And the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is before you as an example. So just continuing on from that, I would like to ask you, and you will have 1 minute to provide an answer to this question. The question is, how has Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, may Allah strengthen his hands, may Allah be his helper, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, how has he encouraged and promoted and facilitated advancement amongst the Ahmadi youth and them striving in the field of education?
It's a very important question, and I feel like if a colleague was to hear my answer, they would ask that as well. So one of the things that Hazur has been putting his focus on is the importance of education, and for Khuddam to, take part in, for example, the sciences, in medicine, in arts, and political science, so that the Jamaat Ahmadiyya as a whole can become more, knowledgeable about the world that we live in. And one of the things that separates Jamaat Ahmadiyya from other nations is the bridging of the secular and the religious, aspects of faith. And Hazur, in fact, has implemented similar things such as the Pathway to Peace initiative, which sort of is striving towards achieving global peace at a global level, and not just for Jamaat Ahmadiyya. So I think that those are just a few things off the top of my head that I can think of that Hazur has implemented.
On the face of it, although it's very pixelated, the video, he looks very confident. He seems like he delivered a very good response. So Yasab, I'll let you respond to that.
MashaAllah, he did provide a very good response, and essentially that's what I was looking for. The important thing that we need to remember is that the Khulafai Ahmadiyya in general, from the beginning until now, in the time of our present Khalifa, may Allah have mercy on all of them and strengthen them, is that they have always promoted this concept of education. And Huzur Anwar constantly says in various classes that he holds with the youngsters and in general, he says that I want the Ahmadi youth and Ahmadis to go into research so that you can develop the world at large, so that you can play an active role in making the world a better place. Because we need people who can advance in the sciences and in education in general, so that we can become, so we talk about this concept of integration. Integration has a lot to do with how we develop ourselves as human beings and how we play an active role in society, and the Khulafa have always encouraged that. And Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III used to mention that no Ahmadi child should be deprived of an education. If it's because of monetary reasons or financial reasons, then the Jamaat will support those students so that they can grow and flourish.
So the Jamaat takes education very seriously. Khalil Sahab, how was Umar Amir Sahab for you? Not Amir Sahab, Umar Amir Sahab.
I thought he gave a really good answer. I thought he was very confident. He was very calm, and he spoke exactly as he would if he was speaking with a colleague. So I thought it was a very authentic execution of the answer. I think ultimately the answer to this question is quite simply that where there is a perception that Muslim countries are backward, it is because they are not following the true teachings of Islam. And that is precisely why the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ predicted that during the latter days there would be a need for a Mahdi and a Messiah. He said, in one of the hadiths, he said that I'm at the beginning of Islam, and at the other end of Islam will be the Messiah and Mahdi. And so that is precisely the reason why there is a Messiah and a Mahdi, and precisely why there is a need for reformation. So I think a good focus on that aspect of the answer. He did touch on it, but a little bit more of that would certainly have been helpful. But I thought it was a very good answer, and I enjoyed listening to him.
Amir, so how was his conviction? Very briefly, if you can just mention his delivery, his style of talking. Was it to some, in the scenario, does it fit the scenario?
I think so. It says you're talking to a colleague, and we've said before, some people deliver it in a speech type of format, and he did not deliver it in a speech format. He was quite natural. He was quite casual in a positive way, and I believe strongly that we have to give kind of a local context.
Right.
he knows how he would speak to a colleague, and if
Yeah.
that's the way he would speak to his colleague,
Yeah.
then we have to accept that.
Of course, no, Jazakallah for that point. In fact, that is one point that we do wish to tell the viewers, that this is a platform which isn't necessarily a speech platform, but this is to get Khuddam trained in talking to on a more one-to-one level, on a friendly level, as a presentation, or in a common scenario, in an everyday scenario, talking to a friend, a colleague, a family member, etc. So that is what we are looking for on the show. This was Umar Amir Sahib from Canada. If you wish to vote for him, you can go to mta.tv/face-to-face and you can choose the two contestants. We've only heard one so far, but you can choose two contestants who you feel should go through to the next round. Umar Amir Sahib, Jazakallah for being with us, and we wish you all the best. Muhammad Izhar Raja Sahib is with us from Burkina Faso. Muhammad Izhar Raja Sahib, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you, Izhar Raja Sahib?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm perfectly all right, alhamdulillah.
Izhar Sahib, did you find today's question a bit more challenging than as compared to the last question you answered?
Not really, because on this subject, and I could find a lot of matter on Islam, as Khalifatul Masih addresses, speeches, but it was not that difficult as compared to the last time.
Okay, brilliant. And Izhar Sahib, quickly, very briefly, if you can tell us, international Khuddam competition, semi-finals, the world is watching. How are your nerves at the moment?
Trying to remain calm.
Brilliant. Jalal, that's very good. We wish you all the best. Now let's take a look at what you had to say in answer to today's question.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A few days back, NASA successfully did its touchdown on Mars, destined to find the proof of water and oxygen over there. But you know that in our country, more than 50% of people, even today, they are deprived of clean drinking water. Again, a few days back, medical scientists have successfully developed the genetically modified children. And on the other hand, in our country, still the cause of mortality, the biggest cause of mortality is centuries-old disease of malaria. So should we start rejecting and repudiating all these advancements? Not at all. And same is the answer to your question. There is not even an iota of doubt that Islam is the only way forward. Then why today Muslim countries are so backward? Because they not only have stopped acting on the teachings of Islam, but are doing totally against that. See, Muslim countries are in a constant social unrest. Why? Because neither the subject nor the government is fulfilling the responsibilities, whereas Islamic teachings to the subject was to love the country and to the government to protect its civilians. Again, Muslim governments are negating women still now, whereas Islamic teaching was that both men and women have equal rights. Again, we see that Muslim countries are strangled and entangled in fiscal problems because of this interest, whereas Islamic teaching was to relinquish whatever has remained of interest. These are not just merely the arguments. If you see from the time of inception of Islam till 13th century, when Muslims really were practicing Islamic teachings, they were pioneers in every field: medicine, surgery, astronomy, astrology, mathematics, and there is a long list of names starting from Hayyan, Battani, Ibn Sina, Khayyam, just to mention a few. Let me share an interesting fact with you over here, that Islam already told about this situation, and moreover it presented the solution way back 1400 years ago, that when such a time will come, a messenger of God will come, he will create a community, and his successorship would follow. And we saw that in the very first 100 years of that community, the glorified past was revived in the form of such as Zafrullah Khan Sahib, Dr. Abdul Salam Sahib, and MMM, to mention a few. And even today we are seeing that it is only the Khalifa of promised Messiah والسلام, who is guiding the modern world. Either it is the difficult time of credit crunch, or the mass immigration issues, or it is when the world is enshadowed by the threat of another world war. So yes, Islam is the only way forward. Muslims are so backward because they have stopped acting on the teachings of Islam. Jazakumullah.
That was Muhammad Izhar Raja Sahib from Burkina Faso. Right towards the end, he summed it up by saying that the teachings of Islam are not being followed in their proper manner. Khalil Sab, I'll let you take it away now. Izhar Raja Sab, Khalil Sab will now be asking you a question and you have to answer within 60 seconds.
Assalamu alaikum, Raja Sab. Thank you very much for your contribution. I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to have 60 seconds to answer it. And my question is that in your answer, you said that there is not an iota of doubt that Islam is right. But I don't think that you explained fully why Islam is right. Can you please explain why you think Islam is right? Your time starts now.
Yes, by saying so, I mean that whatever problems we are encountering nowadays, though Islam and the Book of God was revealed 1400 years back, but whatever problems we are facing now, be it scientific, social, economical, with the grace of God, the promised Messiah Islam and His Holiness as Khalifatul Masih is constantly guiding the world according to the teachings of Islam. So this is actually the thing that people say, okay, why do we have to follow a religion that is so old, or why the word of God which was revealed 1400 years back? But that is a practical proof. There is not even a single problem which you say and the solution is not present in the Islam. So that's how I'm saying that Islam is a way forward, and there are solutions for each and every problem. So start it with the solutions, problems which are for a family, and then go to neighbors as a city and country, national level, international level, and global level. And in every field, Islam is there to answer, and His Holiness is there answering in the teachings of Islam.
The 60 seconds are up, and now it's time for our judges to give their verdict of what they heard.
So he was within 60 seconds, which is a good thing. I think the answer to that particular question is Islam is right because it provides a framework in which you'll fulfill not just the rights of God, but also the rights of mankind. And it does so in a way that is just to all. And I think that is the fundamental premise as to why Islam provides solutions to many of the world's problems, because it exercises decisions and guidelines in a way that is just, regardless of which section of society you live in. But I'm very grateful for his contribution. Again, I enjoyed listening to it.
Ayasab, that question, if Muslims were to practice Islam in the true sense, would they not be as backward then? Is that a fact? And obviously, if you can comment on Izhar Sab's answer.
You're assuming that Muslims are backward, they're not.
Yeah, obviously, I'm just taking the question. I've just been given a question, But obviously, assuming that, what do you think?
Well, that's the thing. As Khalil Saib was mentioning, that Islam and the Quran provides a framework with which to move forward. This we often misunderstand. Sometimes we think that religion has no part to play in the advancement of society at a secular level, because religion comes to teach you certain basic traditions and practices of worship, and that's about it. You fast, you pay charity, and that's it. That's what religion comes to do. And these are aspects of religion. But Islam, which is a culmination of all of the good qualities of religion, and which is the perfect religion which Allah the Almighty sent in this day and age, accommodated for our secular lives as well. And it gives us a pathway that we should follow so that we can be successful in our spiritual lives as well as in our worldly lives as well. And that's why the Holy Quran says that true Muslims are those who reflect on the heavens and the earth. And there's so many points of wisdom that we can derive from the Holy Quran.
And briefly, in terms of Izhar Raja Saab's delivery, very briefly, how was he for you?
I think Izhar Sahib made a very good delivery. I was very pleased with the tone of his voice, with the speed at which he spoke. His voice was clear. And I think if I was speaking to a colleague, I would speak in the same way. So, mashallah, he did a wonderful job.
Excellent. Amir Saab, content-wise, were you happy with the initial video that you saw?
I'm happy with it. I, however, think it's kind of a trick question, the question that was asked, that are Muslim countries backwards? If we go to the wider world and the wider globe, we see that it seems to be more of just a question of Muslim countries being backwards or underdeveloped or less educated, and actually it's more about the West versus the world. If you look at South America, for example, there's extreme poverty there. In some countries, you have millions of people living under $10 a day, and there is still issues of many places being underdeveloped. These countries are mostly Christian countries. There's massive Christian populations. Even within America, there's been reports recently, the United States, which is considered to be, the most advanced country in the world, the people who are living below the poverty line, and living in these places is extremely high, the gap between the rich and the poor. So I feel that sometimes this is almost a trick question in a way, that the questioners have assumed automatically that all Muslim countries are backwards. However, if we expand that, we see that actually it's a question of Western countries vs many countries, Muslims and countries of other religions, who have a lot of issues of underdevelopment and other issues and other problems going on. So I would have liked the questioner to not just take the question on face value and actually research about what's happening in the world and see that the issue is actually beyond just the Muslim countries.
Excellent. Jazakallah, judges. For that, that was Muhammad Izhar Raja Sahib from Burkina Faso. If you feel that he should go through to the final, then you can go to mta.tv/face2face and you can cast your vote. You can select 2 of your favorite contestants who you feel should go through. You can watch the videos there as well for the 3 remaining Khuddam who we are yet to talk to, but you can go to the website and you can view the entries as of now and you can watch those and make a decision on that basis. We now have Muhammad Kofitu Masih Nayyir from Ghana. Brother, Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, I'm very good.
Brother Nayyir, we heard your video and mashallah you had great passion in your first round, in the qualifying rounds. Tell us, how passionate are you about preaching Islam to the corners of the earth?
Yes, from the very beginning, I have been passionate about Islam. And in fact, it is the course I actually read at the University of Religions. And so I've always been passionate, and it has been my field all these years.
Excellent. And brother, can you tell us, what have you enjoyed most about your journey on Face2Face this year?
Yes, I think the last time I joined the program, that was the last episode. In fact, as soon as I qualified, I frustrated, I must say, and that all those who were supporting me, I had calls here and there calling me to congratulate me, and it was a great moment for me.
Brother, it was great talking to you. Let's now take a look at what you had to say in answer to today's question. Let's take a look.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. My reaction to this challenge is that, yes, Islam is the way forward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran that, Inna dina inda Allahi al-Islam. The religion with Allah is Islam. Again, he says that, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَا يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. That whoever seeks a religion other than Islam, it shall not be accepted from him. Islam as a religion is perfect and has all the good things that one can think of. It is therefore inconceivable that any Muslim country would abide by the teachings of Islam and yet be backward. I therefore vehemently and perpetually disagree and thereby depart from the notion or the assertion that Muslim countries appear to be the most backward in the world. The word backward itself is so vague and wide a term that one cannot come to a vivid conclusion. Backward in terms of what? Education, religion, or development. Those who make these assertions are using the social facts, the ethical values, the practices, and indeed all the happenings in other jurisdictions to assess and judge these Muslim countries, which is wrong, unfair, and improper, because these matters to a large extent are relative. However, these Muslim countries have their own problems and shortcomings. We can talk of issues of terrorism, conflict, violence, issues of disunity and disintegration, issues of religious intolerance inter alia. For instance, Ahmadi Muslims are being persecuted in a lot of these Muslim countries because they claim that Ahmadi Muslims are not Muslims, when in fact the Holy Quran says that La ikraha fi din, there's no compulsion in religion. These Muslim countries are engulfed in all these problems because of the fact that they have failed to acknowledge and believe Mirza Ghulam Ahmed Sahib of Qadian as the Imam of the age, and they have also failed to believe and accept Khilafat Ahmadiyya, and thereby have deviated from the true teachings of Islam. Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmed Rahimahullah, in a response to a question asked by an Arab on Khilafat, said that Muslims ought to unite under one Imam, and that is Khilafat. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Hamis Ayadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz, also in his concluding address of the 36th Jalsa Salana of Canada, did underscore the significance of Khilafat and said that Ahmadiyyat had progressed to this state because of the blessings of Khilafat. From the foregoing, it is apparent that even though one cannot conclude that
The Muslim countries are the most backward in the world. However, they are confronted with so many challenges, and these challenges can be addressed when they believe and accept the Imam of the age and also accept Khilafat Ahmadiyya and thereby uphold the true teachings of Islam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
You were just listening to Muhammad Kofi Tumasi Nayyar Sahib from Ghana. If you wish to participate in future shows of Face to Face, do email us at face2face@mta.tv. State your name, your qiyadat, your country, and that you wish to participate. Inshallah, we will contact you prior to the commencement of the following series, the upcoming series, the next series of Face to Face. You can also share your thoughts with us. We've been talking about the question today. You just saw the question on the screen. If you feel that some points maybe perhaps weren't mentioned and you feel that you want to share to the conversation, tweet us your thoughts at our Twitter handle, face2face_MTA. You can also follow us and communicate with us on Instagram, face2face_MTA. And inshallah, we will be more than happy to read your messages out and see what you have to say. Gentlemen, we were just listening to Muhammad Kofi Tumasi Nayyar Sahib from Ghana. Amir Sahib, I believe you are left now to ask a question. This is our third contestant. Take it away.
Nayyar Sahib, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So Nayyar Sahib, my question to you, for which you'll have 60 seconds, is how would you say the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, is trying to, through education, through humanitarian services, try and bring progress to the continent of Africa?
Yeah, very well. In fact, in Africa, it appears that when it comes to even these matters of Muslim countries being backward, some have even pointed hands at Africa. But I think that Ahmadiyya, to a large extent, has affected the life of so many Africans. For instance, if we come to Ghana, Ahmadiyya is actually helping the people through education. And so there are so many basic schools and senior high schools that have been built by Ahmadiyya and have sprung up in all over the country. We can also make mention of, the humanitarian services that the Ahmadiyya Jamaat is offering to Africa. We also have health facilities that have been established by the Jamaat all over Africa. And so these interventions that are implemented by the Jamaat, to a large extent, have greatly influenced the life of Africans.
He seemed to know a bit about, a lot about his own country, and he was stating a lot about that. Amr Sahib, how was that?
I have to say, for his initial response, the conviction, I shouldn't reveal my results, but his conviction, it felt like his passion was coming out of his heart. It was an amazing conviction, and I give him a lot of credit for that. In terms of the answer, it was a very good answer, the second one. I would have liked you to expand a bit more and talk about how the fact that if you look at humanitarian and education, the Jamaat looks at the fact that you have to have food on your table to be able to progress as step one. Yeah. If you don't have food on your table, then you can't go to the next step. So we're providing those humanitarian model villages, we're providing water pumps, and we're training them so that they can be self-sufficient. And number two, we are establishing, apart from hospitals, etc., to provide those basic care services, we're providing schools which are not indiscriminate of religion. And we're providing top-level education. In Ghana, you have TI Secondary School and many schools, which are now some of the best schools in the country. People come in, there are people who come in as Christians and leave as Christians. So the Jamaat, through what started with the Nusrat Jahan scheme, the third Khalifa, has now progressed, and in this era of the fifth Khilafat, we are now many governments and presidents are inviting the Jamaat to come and establish themselves in the country because they see the value that we bring. So it's the first answer was amazing. I love this conviction especially. The second answer was good, but I would have liked the brother to bring a few more examples of how much the Ahmadiyya Jamaat is doing to help the people of Africa.
I think I remember when I went to Ghana, I did actually have this experience where I spoke to someone and just casually he told me that he had studied in TI Ahmadiyya, Talimul Islam Ahmadiyya, one of the schools in Ghana. And this is, it was mind-boggling for me that someone in a random part of Ghana knew about the Jamaat.
Well, even to extend beyond that, I've tried it here in the UK. You can ask somebody who's recently been to Ghana or Nigeria who's not an Ahmadi, and they will most definitely have heard of the Ahmadiyya community because of our services there.
Khalil Sahib, how was Muhammad Kofi Tumasi Nayyar?
So I think that he gave a pretty good answer. Obviously, this is semi-final level, and so we're looking for answers that are very well structured, that answer the question well and that provide evidence in support of everything that they are stating within the answer. And I think he did that to some degree. It was an interesting take on the question, because what he did was he actually challenged the very assumption that Muslim countries in themselves are backward. I'd just make a couple of points, and one is that it's important not to fall into the trap, as a general point, of ending up defending Muslims or defending particular countries or defending people. What we are doing as Jamaat Ahmadiyya is defending Islam, and that's our fundamental purpose. And so when you're going about answering a question like that, you need to bring it back to Islam and say, look, this is the Islamic position, and if you were to follow Islamic guidelines and doctrines, then you would be in a much more different position than you would be if you were not to follow them. So that's the first point that I would make. The second point that I would make is that he'd mentioned the Jamaat, and he'd mentioned Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, he'd mentioned two Khalifas. Again, I would like him to connect that with Islam and to show actually that the progress of the Jamaat and what Hazrat Khalifatul Masih says, they say because it is something that finds its basis within Islam. And so drawing that connection together, I think, is important for me.
Ayaz Sahib, very briefly, if you could just add to that, how was that for you?
I think Nair Sahib made a good response. He provided a good answer. One thing which I would have liked to see was further evidence of how Muslims who have followed the true teachings of Islam progressed, and how Islam promotes the furthering and advancement of knowledge in the sciences and these various faculties of knowledge. That's one thing which I would have liked to hear a bit more on.
Okay, brilliant, valid point. That was Muhammad Khuddamul Masih. Nair, brother, Jazakallah for being with us, and we hope that you've taken something valuable or somewhat beneficial for you in some form or way, and we hope that you will join us in the future if you don't go through. But if you do go through, once again, we wish you all the best nonetheless. We have now, we've heard 3 contestants so far, and you can go to mta.tv/face-to-face to vote for your 2 favorite contestants who you feel should go through to the final, which is next week, and you can do that right now. Our judges are doing so. You can do that right now. You have the added advantage that you can actually watch the 2 remaining videos as of now. But in the meantime, we're going to go to Taslim Ahmed Sahib from New Zealand. Taslim Ahmed Sahib, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I'm very well.
Taslim Sahib, I hear that you're in the UK right now and that you're originally from the UK. Tell me, there isn't a conflict of interest, is there? Because your representation is of, obviously, it can be from UK or New Zealand. Tell us, which is it?
We'll go with, I'm representing New Zealand this time. We'll just go with that.
Okay, brilliant. And Taslim Sahib, tell us, what has been your inspiration in life to tackle such questions head on, or tackle such matters head on?
I think mainly, by the grace of Allah, my family has been really supportive and really encouraged me to go with this. The Khuddam brothers in New Zealand, our Murabbis in New Zealand as well. And that support led me to take on the face-to-face challenge once more this year.
MashaAllah, it's a pleasure seeing you once again, Taslim Ahmed Sahib. Let's now take a look at how you answered today's question.
Good point. Unfortunately, a lot of the Muslim world does seem to be backward. But is this happening because of Islam or those who claim to follow it? The real problem here is forgetting the true teachings of Islam. For example, take women's rights. Saudi Arabia would certainly have you believe that Muslim women can't even do basic actions like driving or opening a bank account. Yet in Islam, she inherits property, she works, and her earnings are hers only. It might also surprise you to know then that Hazrat Aisha, wife of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, actually led an entire army while riding a camel, never mind driving. Something else that illustrates some of the backwardness in the Muslim world: blasphemy and Islam. A casual observer would look at the case in Pakistan and come away with the impression that Islam orders death for a simple statement. Yet in the Holy Quran, in chapter 4, verse 141, it said regarding those who mock religion, "When you hear the signs of Allah being ridiculed and mocked, do not sit with them until they engage in a talk other than that." But these societal problems are still only half the story. You also have the issues regarding scientific and educational achievement. According to the Pew Research Center, Muslims worldwide have a global median of only 8 years of formal schooling compared to the 9.2 years of the irreligious. Does this mean that religion holds you back? Absolutely not. The Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said to seek knowledge even if you have to travel far and wide for it. The Holy Quran exhorts you to ponder the heavens and the earth, and it is for this reason that Muslims were at the forefront of scientific advancement for over 600 years in the Islamic Golden Age, where they laid the foundation for much of modern science. However, it is important to note that while things like misogyny and creationism and racism are indeed backward, we shouldn't be so quick to criticize Muslim practices like not drinking alcohol or dressing modestly. In fact, these have recently been shown to be beneficial both for the individual and society. Now, while on one hand it saddens me to see the sorry state of the Muslim world, on the other it also increases my faith, because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ warned that there would come a time when Muslims would be Muslims in name only, and nothing would remain of the Holy Quran except its words. Its true teachings would be forgotten. And it is in these dark times that God Almighty would send a Messiah, who we Ahmadis believe to be Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam, and it's through him that we have rediscovered the true teachings of Islam. And when we look at these teachings, it is immediately obvious that this backwardness has nothing to do with Islam when followed properly. It is an example of true Islamic government if you look at the Medina in the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. As George Bernard Shaw put it, if a man like Muhammad ﷺ was in charge of the world, he would solve its problems and bring it the peace and happiness that it needs. But until the Muslim countries bring about such a reformation, they can never truly move forward.
Taslim Ahmed Saab from New Zealand, who is currently in the UK. And Taslim Saab, before I do start, because our judges were asking us, how old are you, if you don't mind? Because, you know, for someone your age to have appeared twice on Face to Face and to have reached the semi-final, well, you reached the final, I believe, last year. But it is quite remarkable. So just tell us quickly, how old are you?
Yeah, I'm just shy of my 16th birthday.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. That 16-year-old Taslim Saab, Ayaz Saab, I trust that you will bear his...
Shy, I mean he's 15.
Does that mean you're 15?
Technically speaking, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's good nonetheless. I mean, I'm sure you're a Khadim now. Ayaz Saab, take it away. I'll take a step back now and you can speak to almost 16-year-old Taslim.
Acha, Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum, Taslim Sahib.
Wa alaikum assalam.
So we are all feeling generous today. So we'll ask you an easy question. We'll find out if it's easy in a bit. So I'm just gonna take this question from something that you alluded to in your answer. You spoke about the golden era of Islam and how scientific advancement took place in this era, known as the golden period, the golden age, if you will. Now, one of the questions which are raised by historians in the context of this golden era of Islam is that the reason we see that advancement in the golden era of Islam is because, historically speaking, spirituality was on a decline. So the Muslims who achieved these great feats during that golden period, they did so because they were detached from God. How would you answer that question? You seem like a really bright, young 15-year-old.
Well, first of all, I would say that, in fact, the proper decline of spirituality and religion didn't come until much later, maybe until the 17th or 18th century. That's when it really started to go downhill, when we had the Ottoman Empire start forming and that sort of thing. In addition to that, if you look at what Islam teaches regarding this acquisition of knowledge, it places huge emphasis on both religious and secular education. As I mentioned, the hadith, to travel all the way to China if you have to acquire knowledge. And this, and just one of many injunctions that actually shows that seeking knowledge is not just something that Muslims should do, it's something that Muslims have to do. And so this junction to the Muslim scientists was perhaps, you could argue, the primary motivator behind this, since this was, after all, the Islamic golden age. And this is probably when faith was at its strongest.
Well, keeping with the impartiality I have to adhere to, I think he's, done a remarkable job for a 15-year-old. He really has. What do you say, Ayaz Saab?
MashaAllah, I will echo your words. Taslim Sahib provided a very strong, robust answer. He spoke very well. He was very confident. The manner in which he answered my follow-up question was also immensely commendable, mashallah. May Allah bless him and enable him to increase in his qualities, and may he use these qualities for the service of Islam and Ahmadiyyat. One thing which I wanted to hear in that follow-up question is to reiterate and hit this point home, that to say that Muslims progressed in that golden era of Islam because they were detached from God or not as spiritual as they were initially is a misleading thing to say. The fact of the matter is that all of those Muslim scientists were essentially adhering to the principles of Islam as mentioned in the Holy Quran. And the basis of this was present in the Holy Quran. It was present in these teachings. It was the Holy Quran which motivated them to go out on this search and develop and discover and learn new things. And that fundamental desire to acquire wisdom was taught to them through the ages, through the generations, by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, who said that wisdom is the lost property of a believer and you should try and find it from wherever you possibly can. So this foundation upon which the Muslims went to new heights was the foundation of the Holy Quran. And the Holy Quran is a testament of that fact. If you open the Holy Quran and read it and find the insights that are present therein, you will find that it was because of Islam, not because of their irreligiousness, that they progressed in that era.
Very, very concise, very comprehensive response there. Khalil Saab, would you echo that?
You said that it was a good answer for a 15-year-old. It was a good answer for anybody,
wow.
any age.
Okay,
and actually, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Tasneef Saab is one of the real talents of this competition. I really hope that people are going to vote for him and that he's going to make it through to the final. I'm going to stretch him, though, a little bit, because first of all, I'm going to tell you why I thought it was good. Yeah. It was good because he identified challenges and he drew answers to them immediately. So he identified the problem, he brought about the answer, and he made it clear how that challenge was going to be rebutted. And what I would want him to do is two things in future if he makes it to the final. I want him to have an even better structure. I want him to make each argument, connect it together, and I want him to draw a conclusion that brings all of that together at the end of his argument. And the other thing that I want him to do is think about his referencing and his sourcing. He mentioned Pew Research. He talked about 8.2% versus 9% in the context of education, but he didn't really explain why that was not a challenge to the way things are done in Islam. So make sure that when you use sources, identify sources, you actually draw the right conclusion at the end of it. But I really enjoyed listening to it.
Jazakallah, gentlemen. Amr Saab, unless we can just pause for now, I'm afraid we have to move on to the next contestant. But that was Tasneem Ahmed Saab. If you want to go and vote for him, you can select him. You can go to mta.tv/face-to-face. Let's now turn to Pakistan with Kashif Mahmood Tahir Saab. Kashif Mahmood Tahir Saab, Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. I'm great. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. Kashif Saab, I'm going to squeeze in just one question. I'm very curious to know, what do you do for a living?
I'm a student. I'm doing my LLB right now.
Brilliant. Jazakallah, Kashif Saab. Kashif Saab, we're now going to turn to your video. Let's take a look at what you said, and inshallah after that we'll take the 60-second round and see how you respond to that. Let's take a look at the entry.
Before I answer your question, let's put our religious differences aside and make a factual clarification. So there's Islam, and then there are Muslim countries. Islam is a set of values and teachings, while Muslim countries are countries where the majority of population are Muslims, while their political agenda is primarily based on their socioeconomic condition. So how is Islam forward-thinking? Take the example of any forward-thinking initiative you would want in this modern-day world. You want there to be freedom of religion to prevail globally. The state of Medina did that when it became the first multi-religious Islamic state. You want to eliminate all sorts of discrimination against women. Islam did that 1400 years ago. You want to implement international laws to regulate warfare. Again, Islam did that way back. And all of these modern day forward-thinking countries do not and cannot make the claim that their success is owed to their religious teachings, because it is only Islam that went beyond moral and ethical teachings and gave an actual framework for how society would work. And this framework was not just an ideal, it was what led Muslims to rule over the world for centuries to come. not only building an empire, but also illuminating the world with the light of modern day knowledge. The likes of Ibn Sina, Al-Biruni, and so many other Muslim scientists laid the foundation on which modern day civilization is built upon. But it was when they abandoned the light of Islam that other people came and took it and moved the world forward. And there is no surprise in this, because this is actually one of the teachings of Islam, that God does not help change the situation of a people unless they change themselves. However, this doesn't mean that the teachings of Islam are no longer with Muslims. They're just with the right kind of Muslims. Take the example of the Khalifa of Islam, who reminded the leaders of forward-thinking countries that if they don't revert back to the teachings of Islam, the values of Islam, the pathway of peace, they would lead themselves to a third world war, which they were at the brink of. And we believe that was one of the major reasons for averting this potential global calamity. So yes, Islam is the only way forward. It's just very unfortunate that even several Muslim countries fail to see that.
Kashif Zahir Sahib, that was your answer that you had to say in response to today's question. I'm now going to turn to the judges, take a step back and let them take it away and ask you your question, which you have to answer in 60 seconds.
Kashif Sahib, Assalamu alaikum. You look very different to your video, but I'm sure it's still you. But Kashif Sahib, you have 60 seconds to answer my question, which is that there is a perception in Muslim countries that Muslim women have been deprived a right for education, are suppressed, and this reinforces this belief that why Muslim countries are backwards if there's a large population apparently sitting at home. How would you respond to this? Your 60 seconds starts now.
Firstly, the teachings of Islam are very clear when it comes to acquiring education. Islam says that you're supposed to acquire education from the day you're born till the day you die, without any discrimination as to whether women should or men should acquire that education. Secondly, the fact that many Muslim countries, as you pointed out yourself before, are not acquiring, women particularly are not acquiring education, is more of a social fact where the society is framed in a way where the male is the bread earner and is supposed to acquire education, and with limited resources, they're bound to remain limited to who they can give education to. And so when we go back to the core teaching of Islam, there is no suppression against women, and Islam actually encouraged women to acquire education at a time where women were suppressed to the extent of them being buried alive.
Jazakallah, Kashif Sahib. Amir Sahib, I remember you saying that you would be judging Kashif Sahib more strictly because he was one of the champions, as it was last time. Did he have the wow factor for you?
Kashif Sahib, well, which one? The one from the video or the one here?
Both.
Both, okay. Kashif Sahib did very well. His delivery, I believe, one of the best, in my opinion. He does very good in his delivery, and now I understand, because he said he's doing an LLB, why his delivery is so good. To be harsh, I would say that is one thing which, not just for Kashif Sahib, but I think will benefit for everyone. It's something from a Friday sermon of Hazrat Khalifa Masih V from the 24th of April 2015, which I believe answers this question exactly about why Muslim countries are backward. And Hazrat Muslim Maud explains that there's a link between morals, material progress, and spirituality. So if you look in the West, they're only focusing on material progress. And the Prophet Messiah said, if someone tries for material progress, they will get material progress. In the Muslim world, they have combined everything with religion, whereas the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, despite being the Prophet of Allah, despite coming to and starting a state, despite when he brought the religion also explaining how the roads should be built, how the houses should be ventilated, he did not say all those things were linked with religion. Whereas in the Muslim world, they have linked everything to the extent that they raise edicts of fatwa against anyone who doesn't. So the Promised Messiah came and explained that there must be moderation in everything. If you can gain material progress, but you must also have morals. So I believe this aspect must also be explained a bit better, and this is from something which Hazur has explained in a whole Friday sermon.
Jazakallah for that. Khalil Sahib, does Kashif Sahib compete with Taslim Sahib?
Actually, it's quite close. Yeah,
okay,
I thought he was Very good. Again, he made some good factual clarifications. I like the fact that he talked about Islam regulating lots of different types of conduct and behaviour within a framework. And I thought that he executed the answer very well. It was clear he was standing up. He had body language. Everybody knows I like
that's
that.
something you're looking
for. So, yeah, very good.
Brilliant. Ayasa, very briefly, how was that for you? Any points?
I think Kashif Saab made a wonderful answer. I'm very pleased with his answer. I'm not going to compliment him as much because he's not as young as Taslim Sahib, and I think the younger contestants need more encouragement, but I was very pleased with his answer.
MashaAllah. That's very good. Jazakallah, judges. And that was Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib. Jazakallah to you as well, and to all the contestants who took part today. And we wish you all the best, regardless of whether you go through to the finals or not. But just as a reminder to the viewers at home, and obviously to the judges, to please enter your votes now, and inshallah in only a few moments time we will announce the two who will be going through to the final. We heard from Umar Amir Sahib from Canada, after who we talked to Muhammad Izhar Ahmed Raja Sahib from Burkina Faso. Thereafter, we went to Muhammad Kofitu Masih Nayyar Sahib from Ghana, and then we spoke to Taslim Ahmed from New Zealand. And last but not least, we spoke to Kashif Mahmood Tahir just now from Pakistan. These were the 5 contestants, and these are the contestants from whom you can select 2 on mta.tv/face2face who you feel should go through to the finals. The videos were there. You did have the chance to view those videos, but in the next 4 minutes, I don't think it would be possible to view those. But nonetheless, you've seen the program today. These are the 5 contestants from whom you can select 2. Khalil Saab said that Taslim Ahmed Sahib should be voted for. We should say that Khalil Sahib's views do not necessarily reflect the views of the judges, but nonetheless, Khalil Sahib did feel very passionate about Taslim Ahmed Sahib. You should go and vote for who you feel the 2 contestants are. Taslim Sahib did do a very good job, but at the same time, obviously, all the contestants of today, they did a remarkable job sending in your answers to such a question, and then providing so much detail in the in your answers. That is, regardless, I mean, I think it's it is a very worthy, it's worthy of being envied. I mean, that is something very a passionate feature of Khuddamul Ahmadiyya today. I am being told that the votes are in. Khalil Saab, I think it'll be very interesting to see what you have to say. Who do you feel are the two Khuddam are going through?
My predictions are Taslim and Kashif.
Taslim and Kashif.
Yeah.
Excellent, good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, respected judges, the votes are in. You voted at home. The judges voted. We heard 5 contestants, and I'm very pleased to announce that Taslim Ahmed Sahib from New Zealand and Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib from Pakistan, as predicted by my respected colleague Khalil Ali Yusuf Sahib. These are the 2 who are going through to the finals. Inshallah, from next week we will hear from them. Let's turn to Taslim Ahmed Sahib from New Zealand. Taslim Sahib, how do you feel? I mean, after hearing the the confidence some of our judges had in you, but obviously it is a challenge. How do you feel now that you're going through to the final?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, it's a great honour actually to be able to go through to the final and put my answer in there as well. I've got to say, I wasn't quite convinced by the judges, but I'm happy to see that the result came out nonetheless.
Well, the results are out, so you should be pleased with that. Nonetheless, I mean, you're going through to the final, and we wish you all the best in that respect, and we hope that you've taken something beneficial. Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib from Pakistan, congratulations to you as well. I believe this is your 2nd final that you will be going through to. The judges sounded very confident in when, especially Amir Safir Sahib, I must say, he sounded very confident when he said that he'll be judging you very strictly. But regardless of that, you're going through. How do you feel?
I feel great, and just like Islam teaches us that every day should be better than the other, I'm hoping that the next one is better.
Excellent. Jazakallah for that, gentlemen, and obviously to Muhammad Kofitu Masih Nayyar Sahib, Muhammad Izhar Raja Sahib, and Umar Amir Sahib from Canada. We wish you all the best. Jazakumullah for sending in your entries. It was indeed a pleasure hearing your answers and your voices and on this platform, and we hope that in the future you will take part and you've taken something beneficial from what our judges have had to say. Inshallah, the final, the grand final, the end of this great journey and tremendous journey of Face2Face 2018 will be on Sunday, the 30th of December 2018 at 1900 GMT. That's 7 p.m. GMT on Sunday, the 30th of December. The question that we will ask our finalists is a very challenging one, I've got to say. The question is, during a debate with a Christian priest, you are asked, if Islam says to respect other gods and religions, then why did your prophet break the idols in the Kaaba after its conquest? What do you say to him? This is in reference to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he broke the idols of Mecca. This is the question that our finalists will have to answer. It is a challenging one. The names are on the screen, and you can watch this program inshallah next week. From all of us here, until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a champion of women's rights.
But rather to be spiritual beings who are connecting with God Almighty.
Suggesting that, morality comes from God Himself.
The very nature of man is that man was created weak.
Love God with all your heart and mind.